What's happening, people? Welcome back to the podcast. I have a pretty interesting episode lined up, and I'm gonna let my mind kind of walk freely. I've got like 5 different sub topics to talk about, all rolled off of the main topic, and I'm gonna treat it like a tree, and then wee branches come off, and I don't know how long the branch is going to be. I don't know how, jagged it's going to be. I don't know how many leaves. I don't know if it's going to be autumn. I don't know if the leaves are going to fall off and I'm going to go, fuck this branch, we'll go to the next one. But I'm just going to kind of see what happens. Now, before we get into today's episode, as you all know, I've launched Learn to Lift. So we're up and running. Got a good few clients in the door. I've done about 2 or 3 months where I didn't really take anyone on. And I'm still working on stuff in the background of it. So it's like pretty much good to go, but I'm just trying to make it better all the time. Now, what I've done is, because so many people have asked me, what is it, mate? I know you say it's like one-on-one coaching, but what actually is it? What are you talking about? So I've designed a video that basically just runs through how everything works. It's like 3 or 4 minutes. So what I've been doing is, anyone that's actually interested, I'm now just going to send them this video so they know exactly what it is. So if you want to see that video, just DM me on Instagram, just say like more info Gavin, just say keen as mustard Gavin, actually just say more info, it's easier for me to see, and then I'll send you that video, go through everything. Now, before we get into the episode as well, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been, I'm going to try to stop moving in this chair, I think it squeaks, everyone that's been rating the podcast. So Spotify, we're nearly up to 100 ratings. I think that's pretty good. 100 5-star ratings, that'll do me lovely, shine. And then on Apple as well, I done a wee look at Apple Podcasts, and like 2 or 3 people have left me reviews recently. One of them was, I think it was WellMax81, and he was actually saying, like, it made my day, right? Because I've not been looking at Apple reviews. I've also not really been since I started doing solo ones, I've not really been looking at the views or anything. Whereas before, I was posting TikTok clips and try to see how many people were coming from the TikTok clips, etc., because they were going wild. But with doing the solo podcast, I'm getting just as much listens, if not more, and I'm getting more of a wee audience that are following me just for the solo ones. So I didn't realise that people were actually going to be interested in me chatting absolute pony for 40 to 60 minutes. But he was saying that I come across more vulnerable and honest on the solo ones, which is probably more helpful than the guest ones. But the guest ones are funner to do, and it's more of a laugh. But if I can be more honest and vulnerable and make myself look like a dick in the solo ones, and people enjoy listening to that, then that's great. But yeah, if you can leave a rating if you're listening on Apple, let me know what you think of the solo ones and the guest ones, what you're preferring. And then if you can just, on Spotify, honestly, it's just 2 clicks and you can rate me 5 stars, and then this podcast can just fly. Right, that's enough of that shit. So this topic, probably something that took me a long time to learn as well, and it's very nuanced, so there's no answers to this. This is just going to be my thoughts, and it's just, how's the best way to word this? How to use weight loss and the gym to be happy. Now, there's a lot to break down within that one sentence, and that's what we're going to do. So I've split it up into 5 subtopics, right? So I'm just going to go through my own experiences. So that's going to be my story from my childhood and then my adulthood. And then the switch for me, so it's probably best that I come at this from a personal perspective, so you can actually, it's always easier if you follow a storyline to put it back, see how you can relate it to your own situation. So I'm going to basically just tell the story of, because people just know that I was fat when I was younger, but they don't know the extent of maybe what I put myself through or anything like that. I've never told not that it's a story, it's not a sob story or anything, but I've never actually went in depth at what my childhood was actually like and stuff with my weight. And then the last 2 is more my actual thoughts. So I'm hoping, it depends what kind of mood I'm in. I've had 2 coffees, so it should be pretty good. Sometimes if I let my mind run freely, you can get a few 3 or 4 golden nuggets in there, or sometimes you can get fuck all. You can get just milk and there's no golden nuggets in there, like the cereal, just milk. You're just sipping on milk, and which is the words out of my mouth. But I'm going to try my best to, because it's just stuff I've been thinking about over the last few weeks. And then the last one is the whole content. So second last one, a prideful routine over elation. is one of my subtopics, and then the last one is contentment over happiness. So first half will be about my story, and then the second half will be kind of golden nuggets, hopefully. Right, so my childhood, I was pretty much a fat, unhappy, angry wee cunt. I wouldn't say I was unhappy in terms of like I would have a laugh and all that. I would be the exact same as I am now, that I would take the piss out of everyone. I think when I was 10, like I would just sit and like, so like, oh, this is what I mean, I wasn't unhappy, but when I was 10, I remember I got a week-long detention because I just sat for my own entertainment, and there was me, a girl that was holy, fucking well into God. I see at like 6, I was like, fucking God's a load of pish, that's not real. So at 10, I had me, holy girl, and then another girl that was just like me, that was just like, that God's a load of pish. I spent a full week just quizzing her, and this is nothing's changed when I'm like 27. Like if I think someone starts talking about astrology, I'll be like quizzing them and like, right, go tell me more. And I would just do that to her, and I would just explain to her how that makes no sense. And I was like, and Jesus, right, how do we have factual evidence of Jesus? Like, where is the factual evidence of this guy's life? And then she would start talking, and I'd be like, that sounds like pish. I don't think this God guy's real. Anyway, I'd done it for like a full week, and I got detention. I also got detention another time because I sat next to the radiator, and I just used to put rubbers on it and let them burn so that the teacher would then not know where the burning smell would come from, and I'd take the rubber off and I'd put it back. That's just what I was like on my childhood. I just couldn't give a fuck about school. So I wouldn't say I was fat and I was fat, but I wasn't unhappy all the time, because I always liked winding people up. I don't know if that's a like thing I had. I don't know if I just can't not wind people up. It's just I just can't do it. But when I started getting into maybe high school, things change in it, because you fucking puberty hits you like a train, and then you stop seeing girls as humans and things you're attracted to. So there's that change, right? So that obviously you start thinking about yourself and your confidence and stuff. So obviously from about primary school, I just started getting overweight about 7 or 8. When I was up until about 6, I was the fucking cutest wee kid ever, and then I started looking like something out of Alvin and the Chipmunks. If you look at pictures of me, that's what I look straight out of that film. I probably sounded like that before my voice broke as well. My teeth just looked a wee bit, I think I maybe had a gap in between my teeth, which didn't help things. Not that I was that like ugly in primary school, but I was just getting a wee bit fatter. Then when I got to high school, I was getting fatter and fatter, right? And I can remember at like 10 or 11 wanting to lose weight, and I can remember my dad trying to get me running stuff, because I was quite good at football. Even when I was fat, I was just slow, but all I done was play football, so I was still quite good. So I think my dad's seen that a wee bit. Not that I was going to make professional or anything, but he just wanted me to keep getting better, so he would take me runs and stuff. But I made an Instagram video on this the other week. Everything my dad done towards me trying to lose weight was actually pretty toxic, and he also knew, well, basically no one in your family knows anything about nutrition. They don't know anything about creating a lifestyle where you can lose weight and keep it off. Everything they've learned is through like their grandparents usually, and they don't know anything. Like, so my dad would be like, yep, do you just need to stop eating after 6 o'clock? And I'd be like, alright, I'll just stop eating after 6 o'clock. Guess what I'll do up until 6 o'clock? Eat everything in sight. So just stuff like that doesn't work. Anyway, we're now moving into adulthood, right? So things are starting to change. This will probably spend a lot more time on this branch, because childhood, like up until like high school, I can't really remember it that much. I just know I was fat. I can't really, and all I did was play football, games like Hunt the Cunt. If you're from Glasgow, maybe you know what that game is, or you have a very similar name, but that's basically where you hide. Everyone's got like if there's 4 of you each have a letter of the word cunt, and then the other team just come and batter fuck out of you until you tell them what letter of the word cunt you have. That's my childhood in primary school. Fucking hell. Anyway, right, adulthood. I've now lost, like, towards maybe like 15 or 16. I think the highest weight I remember clocking in at was about 15 and a half stone when I was either 14 or 15. That, now, when people go like, oh, you're not qualified to talk about being fat, at 14 or 15, being 15 and a half stone is fat as fuck. It is fat. So that's when, and there's not many pictures of me then, because I think it was Christmas, I remember weighing in at that, and I even remember, because I was always like 12 or 13 when I was like 12 to 14, and then 15 I piled on another like stone or two. Obviously I'm getting a bit taller, but I was getting fatter as well, and I remember looking at that and just going, that's bad, like that's definitely bad. At 15 I was like, that's fucked. And then I can't remember when I actually started losing weight. I remember I changed football teams, and this team I'd maybe lost like half a stone, and I was getting better, and my manager would make me do extra runs and stuff. But I think because the team was good, and I didn't start the first like 5 games, I think I started eating consciously eating a little bit less, because I knew if I got faster and stuff I would start, and that did happen. So the first time I lost weight was at that team, and I remember being pretty obsessed with the scales. So I remember really weighing myself all the time, like fucking through the day and all that. And then, but I just remember I was enjoying it because I was getting way better on the pitch. So that was the first time I lost weight. Now throughout this, the full time, I'm also obsessed with how I look, because even though I was losing weight, this is what I used to think I would look like. I used to think, and my mates would call me this as well, so I've got these real, like I'm really long, right? So I have really long legs and I have really long arms, and like, so if I'm 5'11", right, most of my height comes from my legs, and then my upper body is a bit smaller. So when I first lost weight, I looked like a pregnant orangutan. I was still skinny fat, but I'm so long. So I would just look at myself, and I would still have, so I'll openly talk about this, right, because I think it's something that males, well obviously it's something that males struggle with, because women don't have man tits, they just get tits. Sometimes when I'm doing these podcasts, I say a sentence and I just think about that sentence again. Men have man tits, women have real tits. And boobs, stop saying tits, Gavin. Right, so anyway, went off on a wee tangent there. So that was probably my biggest insecurity when I was about between the ages of like, well, when you're 15 I had huge man titties, and then even when I'd lost weight I was still skinny fat, and I still would like, I'd wear a top. I would always wear tops that weren't tight, and I would always wear tops that were a bit looser. And me and one of my mates had this thing where we would, and because he struggled with his weight as well, we would, like, if you're watching me in the video, I would like pull my top out the way all the time, because it would, so that you couldn't see like my tits or my rolls. I would constantly do this, and he done the same thing. So we'd be sitting at a party and I'd see him do that, and I'd be like, hi, I know that move, and I would do it as well. We're taking the piss out of it, but obviously it was a massive insecurity of both of us, and both of ours, even if you could speak English, Gavin, you fucking cunt. So I would do that all the time, and even when I'd lost weight, so I've got from like, over the space of like 2 years, I think I clocked in at like 12 or 12 and a half stone. 12 stone I think I got down to. I can't remember what that is in kilos, because I actually work in kilos now. That's maybe like 75. Don't know. I remember my overweight stages in stones, because that's what I used to think about then. Right, so I've clocked down then, but I'm still well insecure about how I look. Went to Ayanapa, now we're talking at like 18, and there's pictures. I remember getting like, I had one mate that was just, he's called Robbie. This is actually his brand that I'm wearing, but he was just always, he was that type of person that was like, genetically would have a six-pack and stuff like that, even without hitting the gym. I remember getting pictures next to him. I put them on social media quite a lot. That was when I was like 18, 19, and I had like really tried my best to lose weight before Ayanapa, and I think that was the lowest I'd ever weighed, and I'm still just, I look like a flump. Like, I've got no muscle on me whatsoever. Like, if you look at pictures of us when we're out, I'm wearing like sort of like tops that wouldn't be too tight. My jawline's fucking clean out, but my jawline comes out when I lose weight. So like my face and all that, I look pretty skinny, and I look well if you look at my face. But then my body, I'm just that pregnant orangutan still. That's what I look like. If you go on my Instagram, you'll be able to find pictures of me, which is what I'm talking about, right? So for me, when I talk about all of this, especially women are probably the same, but men, I don't think we openly talk about all of this is driven by women, like especially when you're younger, but even into your 20s and stuff, everything I believe that men deny that most of the things we do are driven by us trying to appear or be more attractive to the opposite sex. More money, more status, like who you hang about with and all that, more sort of power, like in their jobs, and the way they look. It's always to like, maybe not attract a certain female, but just a higher caliber of female in our opinion, or more of them, more options. I think that's what it's all driven by, and like me in my late teens, early 20s, definitely that's all I was thinking about. So all of this was just a constant cycle of, so after like I and Appa, I'd have gained weight straight away. I gained weight when I was on that holiday, and then I'd have just started gaining weight. If you look at pictures of me from like 17 to 18 when I first lost weight to like 22, I'm fluctuating between 2 stone. You'll see me out in the exact same outfit in pictures on Facebook where my jawline's out like fuck, and then you'll see me like where my face is going back to, it's like transitioning back to Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like you can see me just gaining and losing weight all the time, and like they're quite extreme, especially when you see me losing weight, like my face is so gaunt in some of them because I've like lost like 2 stone rapidly and then I've put it back on. Right, so none of this was actually helping my relationship with myself or my body. I wasn't getting more confident with women when I was doing all of this. I think I would maybe, like, people would start finding me more attractive, but I was still deeply insecure, so I would put women off me just because I'm not actually fixing anything. This is just the stuff you learn when you're younger. I like talking about it as for males when it's how attractive they're appearing to women, because I honestly believe everyone's in denial about that. I see so many coaches that are single and are trying to like just build this social media and their following and build up their money, and you just know because they're single, all they're thinking about is that's going to get more girls to DM them on Instagram, but they don't ever actually build the confidence they need outside. So I think that's something that people deny, especially males. Males are in denial about that, but they'll tell their guy mates, but they'll obviously never put that out there. But I believe that's what most of it's driven by. Anyway, right, so the switch for me that finally, and it was a slow process, but it finally started changing things for me, was I found this guy called Kino Body. Now, I think I've spoke about this on the podcast before, but it was just the first guy that got me into lifting weights. Now, I'd been to the gym and I'd lifted before, but I'd have just went with my mates, and I'd have maybe like I'd have went in patches by myself, but never for more than like a month, and I would just be winging it. I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing. I'd maybe just do a variation of what I'd done with my mates and stuff. But then I found this guy called Kino Body, and I think I bought 2 programs off him. The reason I bought 2 is because I put the wrong email address in the first time, and I remember when I was like 20, like I gave him I think it was like £30. £30 to me at 20 was like $3,000. I was fucking fuming that I'd put the wrong email address in. But you know what? That's just something that I have to live with. I just do that all the time. I recently went to a festival in Perth, paid for it all, and then got paid for it all came out of my account, and I was waiting for the confirmation email with a ticket, and I was like, oh, it's not came through. I was like, I think I've put the wrong email address in again. And then I was looking at my email address, and I was like, my email address is pretty much just my name. So I've just went and misspelt my name on my email address, and I had to fucking email them and all that. So that's just something I have to do as a male maybe, or just me. I constantly fucking fuck myself over with the stupidest things. Anyway, right, so I've bought 2 programs off him. This is where I finally made the switch of stopping trying to constantly lose fat. Even though when I would have started these, I was always like eating less calories, even when I was hitting the gym. So I was still trying to lose fat, but at least I'd started making the switch to when I was in the gym, it was about getting stronger. Outside of that, it was still like, right, less food. But I also started tracking for the first time. I'd done it for like a month when I done this program, and it was the first time I seen that, I was getting stronger. I was actually going to the gym and I was like trying to push more weight, and I actually was starting to understand what was in the food I was eating because I started tracking for a month. I only done it for like a month. The reason I stopped is just, this is why I know people are full of shit when they say they can't track and all that, because the only reason I stopped tracking was out of sheer like, I couldn't be arsed, or I thought it was too much effort. That's all of it. And I just didn't do it for long enough to see the results that get you to actually stick to it. So I've done this program for like 4 or 6 weeks, this Kino Body one, when I'm maybe like 21 or something like that, and I've like actually started seeing some results. And I say some results, so I took pictures, and after 6 weeks I could see a little bit of, what we say, definition, but not enough to see anything wild. And I remember seeing all the other transformation pictures and going, mine's isn't as good as that. But I only done it for 6 weeks. That's why it wasn't anywhere near as good. So whenever people say all this, it's only because you've not looked at it as a permanent lifestyle. So lifestyle change. So everything that I'm always putting out on social media about this permanent lifestyle change is because I fucking looked at it like this, and I know exactly what you're doing. So this is only the start of where the change started to come, where I actually started looking at things differently in terms of my body. I started looking at it as like, it's not about just less numbers on the scale or losing fat. It's about how much weight you can push in the gym. And it's not even like that, how much weight you can push in the gym. It isn't about like how much bigger your biceps get or whatever. It's about just constantly striving for that, because it starts taking the focus off of like constantly like fucking holding your flab and all that, because I would constantly do that. I still have that habit in me, ingrained in me from a child, especially when I'm bulking. I just sit and hold on to my fat like it's a little pouch. But you do eventually start moving away from that. So like throughout all of this, when I'm like 20, 21, I had terrible jobs. I fucking hated all of them. The worst one I done was boots, right? So it wasn't just my relationship with my body. And nobody's life is going to be good at 21. You're a fucking idiot at 21 anyway. Like, I was a moron, man. And like, I just would do these jobs for like 6 months. I'm just not capable of working for someone unless it was like a start-up or within a big company and I've got a role where I'm allowed to be creative or whatever. I could maybe do it, but I've never had one of those jobs. I had no qualifications out of school. Well, I had qualifications out of school, but I never went to uni or anything like that. So I had no way of standing out. So all I got was like bog standard jobs. So I had this job in Boots, which was probably around this INAPA time or just after, and it was horrific. So it was just me, 4 old women. My boss was a fucking cunt, and I use that word deliberately because she was a cunt. So I was like a trainee dispenser, and I say trainee dispenser because I refused to actually do the qualification because I hated the place. So I never actually became a dispenser. We dispensed the prescriptions because I didn't want to be. I hated it. Anyway, she would give me like 5 prescriptions, then set a timer, and then every like 2 minutes she'd ask me how I was getting on. She was like, that timer's nearly dropping down. And I would honestly just I wouldn't even say it until I would just give her a look. Now, like, I've quit so many jobs now, I would have just walked out as soon as she put that timer on. I have no time for anything like that. I'm very stubborn that way, but like, if anything, I've got more and more stubborn over the years, and it's a good thing because it stops me doing stuff I absolutely hate. Anyway, so I'm doing that job. I'm really unhappy with my life in general. and I'm really unhappy with the way I look, and all I'm doing is going out. But as soon as I finished that, I remember my dad, because I couldn't drive, I've only learned how to drive like fucking 6 months ago. But anyway, my dad would pick me up from work. I'm quite young here, man. Like, I'm 20. I think I'm 20. Like, I was a fucking idiot. And anyway, my dad would pick me up on the Friday, and every Friday I'd be like, here, I'm not going back there, and he would force me to go back on a Monday. Now, a lot of people would say that was a good thing. I went against a lot of what my dad's been great compared to like my mum and a lot of other areas of my life. Like, if it wasn't for my dad, I'd be fucked, I reckon, because my mum was fucked my full childhood. So he's been like the anchor in my life has got me do a lot of stuff, and like that whole working hard mentality and like never giving up, I've got a lot from my dad. But a lot of the stuff, like, I should have just quit. Because I trusted myself that I would be able to do something else, and I know that I'm talented in other areas. So even at 20, I was like, I can do way better than this. And I would talk to people and like, I'm way smarter than you. Do you know what I mean? I just always had that in me, that I was like, and no offense if you work in any of these jobs, it's not like that, it's more a personal thing. I was like, I can do way better than this, and this is not for me at all. So I always had a bit of this, call it deluded if you want, but I always had this belief that I could build something myself or do something myself. Even when I was younger, I didn't have the mindset then to do it, or I just hadn't built it up yet. But I should have started earlier. You only get that mindset from doing it. So I should have quit. I don't actually agree with my dad that I should have kept going back and waited till I had another job. I should have quit, because I was literally just spending. I worked in, that's the longest I've lasted in a job, and it's the one I hated the most. I think I lasted like 9-10 months out of like literally my dad not allowing me to quit. For me, those, you can say I learned a life lesson, but I learned that lesson 2 months into that job. So I would say I wasted about 8 months, because all I done was work for 40 hours a week for like $1,000, and then I hated it that much that I would just go and get absolutely off my tits every weekend. So for me, I wouldn't say that was a useful way of spending my time at that time. So that's just to give you a bit of insight of what my life was like then. Right, so from now, when we're starting to lift, it's gave me a bit of confidence that I can now start learning something else. So now we're talking, I've quit that job, let's just move to like 22, 23. I've started trying to lift like numerous times, but only treated it as like a wee quick fix to go before I go on holiday or something like that. So I've never actually, what I've done in that 6 weeks, I've maybe done that 3 or 4 more times, seen a bit of difference, and then quit. I was also pretty fucking heavily influenced by the old drink, so that would probably have what was getting me most of the time. But even when I look at when I actually started lifting, properly at 23 to maybe 25, I was drinking pretty heavily then, and I still managed to lift and make a wee bit of progress. So this is the way I want you to think about it in your head, right? Because all of those quick, even though I'm making this shift from losing weight to lifting, I'm always thinking about it being a quick fix as well, getting a few results before I go on a holiday or something. The way I want you to think about this is it being a routine you're proud of, over like an elation feeling, this happiness feeling that you'll get from being in ridiculous shape. So you want to think of it as like a routine that you have that you're proud of, whether that's your work, what you do with your kids, or if you've not got kids, what you do with your hobbies or whatever. And then also something where you're actually challenging yourself, which is what lifting is. If your life is really easy, you'll probably hate it, because as humans, we want to challenge ourselves. This is why the unhappiest you'll be in a job is a job where you're going nowhere. A job with like that call centre job I done, where I was just sitting answering calls of people shouting at me. You're literally not doing, all you're doing is sitting on the phone for 40 hours a week, going through people's issues and it doesn't help you progress anything. Those sort of jobs kill my soul. So also with those sort of things, the gym gives you that kickstart. It's like a stepping stone where you can see that you can put something in your routine where you're progressing every week, and then you build the confidence from that you can go, I can apply those same principles to something else in my life. So for me, it was always like, right, if I can improve at the gym and then I can learn stuff all the time, then maybe I can sack off these jobs and build my own business and learn from my mistakes and then keep getting better every week. That sounds like a big jump, right? But really, it's the exact same principles. That's why when I always say to personal trainers that aren't getting clients or are trying to build on social media, I'm like, right, you manage, see your everything you apply to your training or what you're telling your clients, you need to apply that to content. You need to start turning up every day. You need to start making it a priority. It's the exact same thing. So once you have that in one area of your life, I had it in no areas of my life. That was the first like pillar I got. I call it an anchor, right? Use the gym as like an anchor. You throw it off the boat, and this is the thing that keeps you stable. This is the thing you build everything else around. The gym, make the gym your main priority, and then everything else in your life you can use the confidence you build from learning what to do in the gym and everything else. When I'm talking about it being a prideful routine over elation, a lot of the times when we're looking for happiness, we look for this feeling that's like something we felt at one point in our lives, right? So for me, this might be like when I travelled Asia, I had two best mates from Dublin. We travelled for like 6 weeks together, and it's the most I've ever laughed in my life. They're called James and Julian. They're two of the fucking biggest nut jobs ever. And then when I also joined them, they brought out the absolute worst in me but the best in me at the same time of that time in my life. The videos we have of each other on our WhatsApp group should never ever be shown to anyone on the planet. And I'm pretty sure they've been fucked in other group chats, so that might come and bite me. Well, I've talked about some of the stuff that me and them have got up to, just so that I've cancelled myself before anyone else does. Sticking my nut in a 60th birthday cake when I was out in Dublin, and there's a video of that that's been sent to Lad Bible. So if anything like that comes up, I'm telling you, I was a fucking cunt. So and I still am. And it can be sometimes. Anyway, right, so when we're talking about your happiness and the way you perceive it, you're always thinking, right, I want to be like that level of happy, and it's just been a certain point in your life, right? So for me, that time in Asia, maybe the first time I had a girlfriend, I'm like, I fucking love this person, that feeling. Or like when I first moved to Australia, the first Christmas I had in Australia, I was at a rave on a beach, and I notoriously hated Christmas. Back home, probably just due to like how I grew up in my family situation, all of my mum's family, apart from a few of my cousins and one of my aunties, are all fucking rockets. My dad's family, slightly less rockets, but still quite a lot of rockets. So I just always hated Christmas. So having a Christmas in the sun on a rave on a beach with like 4,000 people from the UK and Ireland, that was one of the funnest in my life. So we're always like waking up on a Monday, like we're looking for that feeling. We're looking to actually be content, right? And we're actually looking for a routine that can challenge us and also not like cause us too much stress. Causes a little bit of stress where we're progressing, but not stress us out too much. So I think you need to look at it like that, and then that's where the gym comes in, that it's that anchor that can provide you, that is provided so you can be content, not filled with happiness and elation every hour of the day, because that doesn't exist. It just isn't a thing. Now, when we're talking about this prideful routine that we're building and it not being something that stresses you out, you want to look at this routine as something that is providing you energy, not taking away energy. It's challenging you and providing you energy, right? So when we look at lifting, in order to get better at lifting, we need to sleep better. We need to eat nutrient-dense food, higher protein. So higher protein, more fruit and veg. We probably will make more progress the less stressed we are. So if we don't work overtime every day, if we don't take a second job, obviously I'm not saying that, let's apply this to your own life. If you're absolutely skint, you need a second job, absolutely do that. But if you're in a position where you don't have to make more money, if you have a routine that provides you energy and like if you get stronger in the gym, you'll need to have more energy to do that, so less stress. So a lot of your work life and stuff you'll have to look at, a lot of like maybe the social events that you don't actually, not even social events, just the events that you're not even arsed about going to, not drinking at those, everything that's going to provide you more energy. We need to look at it as being a weekly routine that challenges us and gives us more energy. Right, so contentment versus happiness. So for me, like I've had anxiety really bad for like a year in like 2017. It's never came back fully. I've only ever had things that have stressed me out a little bit, and like I've felt that feeling coming back only for like a day or two. And it's always been things like when I had anxiety for a full year, it was like a constant state. So even though it was like things that set it off was I had a breakup, and then I had my mum going through like proper schizophrenic episodes, and basically every time I got better, my mum would fucking lose the plot, send me texts where she was saying that I was saying that I wanted to kill myself and all this, and she was like telling my family that I was saying I wanted to kill myself. I wasn't wanting to kill myself. I hadn't told her I wanted to kill myself, and she was just doing mad shit, right? So I was in this constant state of being anxious. So I didn't have social anxiety, but I was getting anxious when I was out in social situations because I was just in a constant state. I couldn't really like breathe in for like a year. I couldn't take a deep breath for like a year, so I'd be constantly stressed about that. So it was like a constant state. I couldn't really sleep very well for that full time as well. So when I talk about this part, like contentment and happiness, I think the one thing, if you like, because anxiety you can get over. People think it's this, people start getting anxiety and then they start attaching themselves to, they start actually almost identifying as somewhat as an anxious person when they're actually a person that has probably went through something that has then made them anxious, and they need to recover from that, and or maybe they keep having whatever that situation is still in their life. For me, when I broke up, like when she would text me, I would start talking to her again. So that's why I never got over it, because that was whatever that relationship was something that was causing me anxiety. So whenever I'm talking to them again, that's just going to trigger the exact same emotions. So when like and this is not, I'm not a therapist or whatever, this is just my own experiences, that's why I'm talking from my own experiences. But when you've actually had that and when you go over it, which you can, I just wanted to say that for anyone that is maybe going through a bad spell of anxiety or whatever, you realise that when you don't have anxiety and you can just sit with your thoughts like I can now, you realise that that's all you want. All you, like, if I wouldn't say I've woke up this morning like with a massive smile on my face. Actually, after I have a second coffee, I usually have a wave of like 5 minutes where I think I can take on the world, and I think I might actually just go and punch fuck out of Vladimir Putin himself. But for me, being able to, like, I could sit in a room for 10 minutes with no phone or whatever, and I could just sit and just be like life's fine, like life's pretty good. And for me, that is all you're striving for. So like when you've actually had a bad patch, it might actually be the best thing that's ever happened to you, because it gives you a whole new a whole new perspective. Because before I had anxiety, like there's the period before anxiety, and then after. Once I fully got over like that patch, I've actually been happier the full time than before I had it, because I was extremely unhappy, but I wasn't depressed or anxious. I just was constantly trying to like do something to make me happier, like whatever my life circumstances were. So I think we really need to look at, instead of even just that change in the word happiness, change it to being content, and then you have a whole new perspective on what actually having a life where you're proud of it, having a life where you can just do stuff without being compromised by like anxiety or whatever. That's the aim. If you're there, then that's you. You have a building block that you can do whatever the fuck you want if you are not struggling with anxiety or depression at that time. Now here's where the gym comes in. Shit in your life is still going to happen. It's still going to happen. Even like where I am just now, something can come up at any point. My mum can have another schizophrenic episode or whatever. That stresses me out a lot, as it would. So what I can do when I have the gym is use it as an anchor. So that is always in my life. So nothing over the last 3 or 4 years, I like missed gym sessions or whatever, but I've never went more than a week without going to the gym. So no matter what state I'm in, I'll take myself to the gym at one point. I'm not saying if I found out my fucking dad died tomorrow that I'd be in the gym tomorrow, but I would be in the gym. I wouldn't like take a month off the gym because it's my anchor. Now I wouldn't say, I've also been in the gym and had stuff happen to me, like maybe with my mum or whatever, and I've fucking had tears come down my face in the gym, right? So I'm not saying I'm in the gym and like that fixes me, but it gives you like that anchor that you can put down, that you go in there and it's a positive thing in your life, and you can come out and feel like you've not even progressed, but you've done something for yourself. So you can take pride in the fact you still go to the gym. Also, any problems you have outside of the gym, which most of your problems will be outside of the gym, it gives you that confidence that you can apply that to the other stresses in your life. So like, since I've went to the gym, there's other habits that I've ingrained in my life. Like anytime I'm stressed out, I immediately take a book out. I've got a notepad here, right? This is full of just like, there'll be pages in here that are to-do lists, and then there'll also be pages in here where I've just, like when I first came back to Australia, and I then within like 3 or 4 days I had thoughts that I wanted to stay here, and it started really stressing me out because I told everyone I was coming home. I hadn't told my dad I'd maybe stay here and stuff. I wrote down everything that was stressing me out. I was going to have to start making more money again. I was going to have to start looking at visas again. Just write all of that out and number it. Like I've done this in London one time as well. Number 1 to whatever, how many things are stressing me out of importance of what I could fix straight away. So like number 1, tell my dad I want to stay in Australia. That was the thing that was stressing me out the most. The gym has taught me that having little habits and stuff in your life that can mitigate the stress that you have, and then actually going and attacking them. So instead of putting off the gym, going to the gym, instead of putting off what is stressing you out, going and having a tough conversation, going and like quitting whatever it is, getting a new job, quitting your job, you realise that you can actually go do those things. So instead of missing the gym, you actually go to the gym. Instead of staying in that job, you go quit the job. It gives you that confidence. I've also took it in other styles of training as well. I done a plan where I think the happiest I've ever been, or let's stay away from that word happiness. The most I've felt where things can't really knock me off is when I done a 5k running plan during lockdown. And I had a good few issues come up then. I was in that call centre and I fucking hated it. I also, that I was going out with one of my last girlfriend then, and we were starting to like bicker quite a bit. She was kept on going out and then just fucking arguing with me every time she drank, so I had that. I also had the thought that I was moving home from Australia and it was lockdown. Those 4 are probably 4 of the most stressful things I could have had at the one time. But I was doing this 5k plan, and it was the most I'd ever been challenging myself, and I was running like 4 or 5 times a week. None of that stuff was really bothering me. Then because I had something that was really, really challenging myself. So that's where you can use that and apply it to something else. If it's lifting's, because I'm still lifting in between this, lifting's the staple, but it then shows you that you can use it in other things. Now, I'm not saying lifting is going to fix all your problems. It might make you feel like you're a bit more attractive when you're out, so that's like a little snowball effect that you can go out, feel a bit more confident, and then actually get better at chatting to new people. So you don't get better at chatting to new people, but it might just give you that push to be like, oh, I should probably go out more, or like take options where I'm meeting new people more often and improve my social skills. And maybe gave me that confidence boost when I started working in a bar, which by the way I think is like, if anyone's feeling unconfident with talking to people, I think putting yourself in working in a bar is the best thing that you can do. It's like a fucking hack to get better at talking to people. So it's gave me that boost. Lifting weights, honestly, I never, if you sit and asked me like what's changed your life, I wouldn't like immediately go to lifting weights. But if I look at everything in my life, or when it's got better, I've built it around the confidence I've got from the gym. Like it hasn't fixed anything on its own. It didn't give me a business. It didn't make me go traveling. It didn't make me book a flight to Australia. But it just gives you that little baby step towards bettering yourself. Like that's the way you want to look at it, and the way you want to look at it is just that fucking anchor in the middle of your routine that helps you with everything else. And if you're unhappy, the gym won't fix it, but it might give you that little fucking stepping stone to being like, right, okay, I managed to get in the gym and get in a routine so I can change this fucking thing. Or it's gave me a little bit of confidence, and now I feel like I can go out a little bit more and I can hold my head up higher and I'm a wee bit more confident. Right, maybe I might leave that person I fucking hate because I feel like I am capable of attracting someone else. That's the way you want to look at it. It's just like a baby stone. It's not going to fix everything, but it might. You want it to actually encourage you to fix other things in your life, because it's all about having something that you can improve at, but also taking away all the things that are shit in your life, because it's your life. Fixing your life is going to be full of difficult decisions, and that might give you the confidence. The best example I can use is building your confidence through the gym when you're in an unhappy relationship, so that you can feel like you can actually make your life better, so that you can be single and be happy or attract someone else in the future. Right, so I think that I'm going to leave it there. I don't know, there was a few golden nuggets. I'd say I was reckoning I was going to get about 5 or 6 in there, but I probably got about 2 or 3. So hopefully you can savour those 2 or 3 golden nuggets. If you can rate the podcast on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff, like it on YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next one.